Hey, fight fans, it's Maddie Levine back for the 1-2 punch. So excited to be here with your first guest of 2023. And I got a chance to see this guy fight for the very first time a few weeks ago at Cage Titans. And I wasn't familiar with him before the fight. But after the fight, I wanted to know all about him. So, Gerald Meuse, thank you so much for joining me today. Captain America, I should say.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So, we have to be honest. This is the second time we're talking. I was a dumbass, spilled coffee on my computer, completely lost our interview, and now I'm making you do it again. So, thank you for doing it again.
Yeah, no problem. Now the questions will come off less organic.
Yeah, I guess. I'll try to come up with some new questions for you though. But one question still remains the same. I definitely want to hear more about how you got started with MMA because it doesn't typically start with fight night, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Years ago, my little brother wanted to get into MMA, and he was like a little timid to start, so I started with him, and to kind of give him some encouragement, I started doing it, and then I did like a couple smoker fights and like finished the people. And people were like, "Oh, wow, you should try this amateur because you did pretty good in the smokers." And yeah, and I like Antoine, the Juggernaut Brit, actually took me under his wing and kind of like mentored me a lot when I first started. And it's kind of ironic that he like somebody with a superhero fight name, like I was like the first one that kind of took me under his wing and mentored me. Uh,
It sounded like it was the perfect fit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it sounded like you jumped into the fighting. I know they were smokers, but it's still a fight. It sounded like you jumped into that pretty quickly. What attracted you to fighting the most?
I guess just like honestly encouragement. Just people would be like, "Oh yeah, I should give it a try." I guess it was like, because the smokers like I guess like it's like a step up from hard sparring. So it's just like a new way to challenge yourself.
Your last fight is not something a typical fighter pulls off, let alone in their second professional fight. And
Yeah.
walk me through your amazing submission of the Twister, which was an absolute first for Cage Titans. How did it feel? What were you thinking? Just walk me through it.
Um, to be honest, like I was going in there to try to do something fancy. Like it was like almost like a challenge. Like I told my corners, like Mike Gresh and Andy, I was like, I'm gonna get him with a twister. And they're like, have you been practicing that? And I was like, not really. I've done it in the past though. And so I went in there, and I didn't think anybody had gotten a twister in Cage Titans. I knew it was rare, and I just went in there and hit it. And to be honest, I mean, it felt good, right? But honestly, I wasn't expecting as many people to be impressed as there was. I was thinking it would be like kind of neat and be like, "Oh, he hit him with a twister," and but everybody went nuts over it. I guess.
I mean, it's pretty cool. And I have to say, you seem so calm for having such a young career. I know, a typical fighter, and it's very, understandable the nerves that go into a fight. Maybe you start overthinking, but I feel like you don't have much of that. Where does this like calmness come from?
I guess like a lot of my experiences in life, like the military and everything, kind of help that. I guess if you're able to like put it into perspective, right? Like other things that you've done in your life, going in there and fighting somebody is really not that difficult of a thing. Sometimes people get caught up with the crowd and the lights, and that almost like creates an illusion. But at the end of the day, it's like two people fighting. And Captain America, right? I'll hit you with a famous. Let's say I guess it's not that famous because everybody here is like probably wicked young watching this. But Thomas Jefferson, he has a quote. He says, "Whenever you do a thing, act as if the whole world is watching." And so, I try to carry that through me, in life, right? But when you go in there to fight, a ton of people are watching, so it just makes it easier, right? You know, so you got to kind of go out there with a bang.
And I would say you definitely went out there with a bang. I mean, not many people could say they landed a twister. And I just love that you were in the back talking about like, yeah, I'm gonna land this twister and we're just gonna make it happen. Like I'm very envious of the way that you can compose yourself like that. And would you say you mentioned your military status? So would you say that helps you a lot with your military background?
Yeah, I think as long as you keep it into perspective.
Mm. So tell
Yeah,
me a little bit about that part because I understand that you not only fought that night, but you also had a couple other roles as well.
yeah, I did the color guard that night, where he came out and like when Andy sang the national anthem, we rendered a salute with the colors, and it added a nice touch to the whole show of Cage Titans. Um, And I remember it was funny because I wasn't originally gonna do the color guard, but there was a couple people in our unit that got COVID, so they couldn't go, and so I had to find a replacement. And then I couldn't find another replacement, so I just did it myself. And it was funny because when I was coming out there in uniform, like doing our rehearsals, like it's kind of like your recon, like to see how the cage, like how big the cage is, how far we need to be spread out. When we come in, we make sure we don't bang the flags on the cage. And when we came out there was a lady taking pictures with a camera, and she was like, "Aren't you fighting tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she was like, "What the heck?" Uh, and because she did the pictures for the fights, so she's seen me coming out, and she was like, "You look familiar. Like, I took pictures of you yesterday." And it was funny. I was walking around in uniform. Everybody's like, "Oh, thank you for your service," because you stand out, and especially at a fight. And then it was funny. After we did the colors, I went and changed to my regular clothes, like something I'm wearing now. And then people still, I guess, kind of recognize me, especially the staff at Cage Titans. And I made the joke. I was like, "Yeah, I might get in the cage later too." Then when they seen me like getting in there with gloves, they were like, "What the heck is going on with?"
Yeah, like needless to say, I'm about to give you the fight of the night here. So that is so great. I love your calmness. I love your confidence. And I loved your walkout. Your walkout got my attention immediately. And I think that was your plan to kind of catch people's attention. But when I saw what was going down, I saw everybody lining up. I saw people in uniform. And then I saw this crazy man walk out in a Captain America outfit. I was like, what is happening? So tell me about the idea behind this Captain America walkout.
Oh, I thought it would be kind of funny. We actually thought about that walkout. We thought about that idea after the color guard. That's how like raw that was. It was like I was like, "Oh, we got to make something funny for the walkout and like add some swag to it." It was funny because all of them were like, "Oh, I can't dance, so I can't." And I'm like, "You'll be fine. Just like let me show you a couple moves." And and we kind of like rehearsed it. We're like, "All right, I'll come out," and it came together nicely because like it came out and I was like, because everybody's gonna be thinking like, "Oh, these soldiers aren't gonna break ceremonial composure." And
Mm-hmm.
but one guy paused, but then he started like dancing with me. And then we spun around and did like the spin thing and like switched them around because it was three of them. And then the other guy
Yeah.
like pistol thing.
Well, so it's funny because again, I didn't know you before this fight and I see it unfolding and I was like, "Oh, that's really respectful of this guy, like, including, people in uniform and stuff." And then you start dancing in front of this dude and I'm like, "Oh, he's being disrespectful. What is he doing? What is he doing?" And then they join in and I'm like, oh, "Okay, this just became the best walkout I've ever seen." So is this something that you plan on doing moving forward with every fight that you have? Like, are you going to try and top it each time?
Oof, it might be hard to top it each time, but I'll definitely try to come up with something really creative every time. Like at the next fight, at least, if Mike can get me booked in March with some notice, I'll definitely come up with something very creative. I already have some ideas, so and
Okay, I almost don't want to know. I want it to be like I
oh
want it
yeah,
to be a surprise.
guys, yeah, it'll be a surprise. And the song that I picked, like the "I'm so excited" song, that I before the like couple days before the fight, I posted. I was like, "Oh, if you were fighting, what would your walkout song be?" And people responded, and I just picked one at random that I thought would be kind of funny, and Because like I thought that went with the I'm so excited one because it's like I haven't fought in a long time, so this is exciting. So let's go with that song.
And it kind of fit perfectly with what you were trying to pull off there. So I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And then like, you know, you do that walkout and I'm like praying. I'm like, oh God, I hope this kid's good. Like, I want it to like be funny and, you know, like let him get the win. And then of course you get the win. And not only did you get the win, but you got some serious recognition for this. I mean, how did it feel to get recognition from organizations like ESPN?
I mean, it was good. Like I definitely like do like my privacy because I don't really have any social media other than Instagram. And I do have a Facebook, but it's blank, and the name is Steve Rogers. And it's just because every time you try to make something online, like if you want to make a Netflix account, like what's your Netflix or your Apple ID or whatever,
Yeah.
and I have a Facebook, but it's Steve Rogers, and so it was funny because I got a bunch of DMs, and they're like, "Are you Steve or Gerald?" Because like ESPN was like, "Gerald pulls off rare submission," and so then a buddy of mine who helps me with the Instagram stuff was like, "Oh, you need to change your name ASAP." You're confused.
So hold on. What is your actual name?
Gerald.
Okay, so I had it right. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, is it Steve? Oh God.
Yeah, it's Gerald.
Okay, good. Well, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are gonna know your real name now after that performance. And I'm curious to know what you hope to achieve for the rest of the year. I mean, you're just getting going with your pro career. You got 2 fights under your belt, correct? For pro?
Yes.
And so now we're moving on to fight number 3. What does 2023 look like for you?
I guess like let's think perfect world. If I guess I would like to fight pretty actively, just because I am in a position to fight pretty actively. Being in the army, I move around a lot over the years, so it's hard to like commit to fighting to where you're like actually focused. Like this fight, I didn't even know I was really fighting till like a couple weeks before, and I just sent it. And it ended up working out. You know, like the weight cut wasn't easy. Like getting the medicals done, like I had to like jump through hoops to make sure it actually fell through. And I worked the day of the weigh-ins. I worked the day of the fight, not even like before the color guard. So, yeah, I had to jump through some hoops to make it happen. So it, not to scare any potential opponents away.
Well, I don't think it would scare them away. I think if anything, it shows them that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get in there. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even consider trying to balance all that. They'd be like, no, I got my own shit going on. I'm not going to worry about this. But it sounds like you have a lot of goals to get back in there.
Yeah, I would like to, especially if it's not going to be so much of a hassle to where I'm always getting a fight offer like last minute. If there was something structured, I definitely like to fight pretty active. And I guess I'm thinking like a potential opponent would look at me like, oh, that's what that guy did on last minute notice. Like, I don't want to see what he looks like prepared.
Hey,
Like,
that's, you know what? If people want to be a champion, and I always say this, if you want to be a champion, if you want to be somebody that's of recognition, you have to fight good fighters. You're not going to get anywhere by fighting tomato cans. Okay. So if they're scared of Captain America, then they don't deserve to be at the top, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're scared of me, then.
If you're scared of Captain America, we got an issue here. But no, I loved your performance. I loved getting to know you a little better, and I really hope to see you back in there soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to get back there back and fight in March.
For Cage Titans?
Yeah, for Cage Titans.
Nice. All right. So I'll definitely keep an eye out for Captain America on that list. But your real name, Gerald, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you so much for your service.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.